Salutations, creatives! Welcome to my very first Plan With Me video. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm excited to share with you my Star Trek-inspired bullet journal cover page for November 2020. Although I've been bullet journaling for years and have a shelf full of minimalistic notebooks to prove it, I only recently began incorporating more color and stylistic elements into my monthly setups. I have never really thought of myself as artistic. Creative, yes, but not necessarily artistic, so I hope you find my monthly spread worth sharing. I haven't been using watercolor paints very long, and I don't claim to be anywhere near an expert. I mainly make it up as I go along. Most of the supplies I have were either gifted from some of my more artistic friends, and others I picked up on sale at various stores. You'll see many mistakes along the way and quick thinking fixes. When in doubt, smudge it out. My bullet journal is a Leuchtturm 1917 at an 80 GSM paperweight, which means it's not necessarily designed for the continuous saturation needed for effective watercoloring. If you're someone who really dislikes rippled or crinkled paper after water dries, I'd recommend a notebook with thicker paper. I don't necessarily mind though. However, I am going to switch to an Archer and Olive notebook come 2021. So why this theme? Well, I've been rewatching a lot of Star Trek during the pandemic. Actually, it's been a true deep dive, not gonna lie. In my opinion, Star Trek has always been ahead of its time. So much of how humanity is portrayed has yet to meet up with the present, regardless of it being created in the past. Star Trek is known for the first on-camera biracial kiss, normalizing fluidity, exploring what it means to have rights, and supporting non-consumerism and materialism. It's all wrapped up in sci-fi goodness. So it seemed appropriate to choose a Star Trek theme for November with a focus on one of my favorite characters from the Next Generation series, Lieutenant Commander Data. In addition to being a delightfully curious android living among humanoids in the 24th century, Data displays an ongoing fascination with the well-known London-dwelling literary character many of us also know and love, Detective Sherlock Holmes. While most of the more well-known Holmes stories are between about 7,000 and 10,000 words, the story I'm sharing with you today is only 503 words long. Throughout my research for this video, I paid close attention to the news stories detailing the copyright and ownership of the Sherlock Holmes stories. There is quite a tale to tell. Long story short, copyright in the Sherlock Holmes stories expired in Canada in 1980. The last copyright on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's work in the United Kingdom expired at the end of the year 2000. However, in the United States, the only Sherlock Holmes remaining in copyright is portions of the Casebook. 3 of these stories, published in 1921 through 1923, are already in the public domain. The rest will enter the public domain in various years leading up to 2023. We're almost there. Perhaps we wouldn't have this type of copyright problem in the 24th century when Data lives and works. I don't remember any episode bringing it up, but I wouldn't be surprised if the concept of copyright no longer even exists. Luckily, the 503-word story I mentioned earlier does not seem to fall within these copyright limitations. And now onto why it is only 503 words. It's so short because it needed to fit inside a tiny dollhouse library. It was originally written for Queen Mary's doll's house, and it's still on display today at Windsor Castle in England. I was lucky enough to visit Windsor and see the dollhouse for myself back in 2011. The story is one of over 200 miniature books produced for the Doll's House Library, with other contributing authors including Sir James Barrie, who wrote Peter Pan, and Thomas Harding. At only 24 pages long, the book measures 38.5 millimeters by 30 millimeters, with about 20 words per page. It is considered by many a delightful little joke. Follow the show note links in the description below to see pictures of the original tiny book and to learn more. So in the spirit of celebrating Data's own curiosity for Sherlock Holmes, someone who seems to emulate so many of the robotic qualities that makes Data so uniquely android, I paired today's plan with me with the Sherlock Holmes parody, How Watson Learned the Trick. Grab some tea, Earl Grey, hot, and enjoy. Or should I say, engage. How Watson Learned the Trick by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Watson had been watching his companion intently ever since he had sat down to the breakfast table. Holmes happened to look up and catch his eye. "Well, Watson, what are you thinking about?" he asked. "About you." "Me?" "Yes, Holmes. I was thinking how superficial are these tricks of yours, and how wonderful it is that the public should continue to show interest in them." "I quite agree," said Holmes. "In fact, I have a recollection that I have myself made a similar remark." "Your methods," said Watson severely, "are really easily acquired." "No doubt," Holmes answered with a smile. "Perhaps you will yourself give an example of this method of reasoning." "With pleasure," said Watson. "I am able to say that you were greatly preoccupied when you got up this morning." "Excellent," said Holmes. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because you are usually a very tidy man, and yet you have forgotten to shave." "Dear me, how very clever," said Holmes. "I had no idea, Watson, that you were so apt a pupil. Has your eagle eye detected anything more?" "Yes, Holmes, you have a client named Barlow, and you have not been successful with his case." "Dear me, how could you know that?" "I saw the name outside his envelope. When you opened it, you gave a groan and thrust it into your pocket with a frown on your face." "Admirable! You are indeed observant. Any other points?" "I fear, Holmes, that you have taken to financial speculation." "How could you tell that, Watson?" "You opened the paper, turned to the financial page, and gave a loud exclamation of interest." "Well, that is very clever of you, Watson. Any more?" "Yes, Holmes. You have put on your black coat instead of your dressing gown, which proves that you are expecting some important visitor at once." "Anything more?" "I have no doubt that I could find other points, Holmes, but I only give you these few, in order to show you that there are other people in the world who can be as clever as you." "And some not so clever," said Holmes. "I admit that there are few, but I am afraid, my dear Watson, that I must not count you among them." "What do you mean, Holmes?" "Well, my dear fellow, I fear your deductions have not been so happy as I should have wished." "You mean that I was mistaken?" "Just a little that way, I fear. Let us take the points in their order. I did not shave because I have sent my razor to be sharpened. I put on my coat because I have, worse luck, an early meeting with my dentist. His name is Barlow, and the letter was to confirm the appointment. The cricket page is beside the financial one, and I turned to it to find if Surrey was holding its own against Kent. But go on, Watson, go on. It's a very superficial trick, and no doubt you will soon acquire it."